My guess is if you clicked on this video, you're moving to New York City in 2024, or you're thinking of moving to New York City in 2024, and you really want the lay of the land. You want to know what it's actually going to be like for you when you move here. This video is going to have a wide variety of information. Things I think I would want to know if I was moving to New York City that might be helpful for you. But, you know, if something doesn't resonate, that's okay. I'm not expecting everyone to agree with everything I say in this video. You know, even though I've gone through all these articles and I have all these sources, what's important is how it relates to you. This is actually the one annual video that I have on my channel. I've made these the last 4 years now. This is my 4th one, updating you guys on the current situations in the city. I do not consider myself a New Yorker, even though I've been here for 7.5 years. I know that's a very touchy subject. I'm a true transplant. If you are a New Yorker and you have any advice to add in the comments after watching this video, this is an open community space. I should probably introduce myself. Hi, my name's Chelsea. I'm 32 years old. I live alone in New York City. I honestly am starting to lose count on the amount of times I've moved and the neighborhoods I've lived in, but I believe it's like I've moved 10 times and lived in 11 different neighborhoods. In those 11 neighborhoods, it's been 3 different boroughs. So yeah, I've seen a lot from my experience. You can trust me. So right now, you're in the view from my fire escape. We're about to go into this city on a little adventure while I share an incredibly large amount of information with you. So let's get started. All right, everybody, welcome to Central Park. How pretty. The number one question that I get asked for people looking to move to New York City is it safe? What are the safest neighborhoods? What is crime like? So I went on the New York City website and they said that the overall index crime dipped 2.9% citywide in January compared to the previous year. In the last year, crime has gone down slightly. I mean, do I feel safer in the city? I honestly feel like it hasn't changed. Everyone has had a different experience, so everyone's going to give you a different answer to this. But for me, I feel like it feels the same. People who are used to cities already might feel a lot safer coming here versus people coming from small towns. I looked up the most dangerous cities in the United States for 2024, and I could not find a single article where New York City was listed on the top 10. But from my own personal experience, I do feel safer living in Queens than I ever did in Manhattan. When I used to live in Central Harlem, I had like a package thief that was stealing all of my stuff for months, and it was really, really annoying. And then there was like someone jiggling the handle of my apartment door. I would look out the peephole and there'd be no one there, and I would hear like the stairwell door close. And it was stuff that kind of stuff made me feel really unsafe. And so I ended up getting like an extra lock for my door. Package thieves are not specific to New York. You're going to get them in every city. But someone commented recently on my channel. I could not find the comment. I'm so sorry. But they suggested if you're having this issue, consider getting an Amazon locker. This is only if you're ordering stuff from Amazon though. Based on your location, it can suggest free delivery to an Amazon locker, and it keeps your packages secure if you're not home to receive them, so you don't have to worry about them being stolen. You just have to go pick them up. That's the only thing. But I think that's a great idea. So I guess that segues into COVID updates for the city. It doesn't feel like it's talked about at all anymore. I don't see people wearing masks on the street at all. I see maybe a few people on the subways wearing a mask, but I feel like it's something that is an afterthought in the city now, which is interesting because we just had a recent COVID spike after the holidays. The CDC is considering lifting the 5-day isolation period if you test positive or if you have symptoms. And with that, like working from home is becoming less and less of a thing. Companies that were fully remote during the pandemic are now almost fully back in office. This is just very general. Some companies have moved to a hybrid where you can like pick a couple days a week where you can work from home and then you're in office. This is interesting because before the pandemic, there was so many moments where you had to wait on the platform for trains to go by because you just couldn't even fit on it. And throughout the pandemic, coming and going to work, it felt like a breath of fresh air because you weren't being crammed on the subways like sardines. There were less delays because it took less time to get people on and off the train in those busy rush hours. And now it just feels like just as packed as it was pre-pandemic, and I feel like the MTA is suffering because of that. I would just prepare yourself if you're moving here for the experience of if you're going to work a 9 to 5 and you're going to commute into office a few days a week, it gets really, really packed. So when I lived in Central Harlem, I was like the second to last stop on the subway. So when I got on the train, there was always a seat for me in the morning. And that was a huge perk of living a little bit outside of the city. So maybe I would consider doing that. You always have a seat and you can always take a little nap on your way to work, even though your commute's a little bit longer. There's FedEx. So we're currently on a residential street in the Upper East Side. And I'm here to address one of the other most asked questions for those looking to move to New York City. What is it like to get an apartment right now in 2024? I personally am a diehard NYC moving vlog lover. I have created my own series of that, shameless plug. But from the vlogs that I've watched so far of just like average people like you and me trying to find an apartment, the market's really, really tough out there. It's more expensive and you get less for the cost. Historically speaking, the wintertime is a really good time to look for an apartment in New York City. There's less people moving here. There's less competition. There's possibly maybe a little bit lower prices. You're more likely to find a landlord or a broker to throw in like an extra, like a deal. But in general, from what I've been seeing, it's still really, really tough out there for folks in January, especially for rent stabilized apartments. Those go like hot cakes. But apparently the number of New York City apartments dropped to its lowest point in more than 5 decades last year. Just 1.4% of all apartments in the city were vacant and available to rent last year, which is the lowest rate since 1968. Get this, the vacancy rate was less than 1% for apartments priced below $2,400 a month. I found my apartment through an app or website called StreetEasy. StreetEasy tends to be very competitive, but that's how I found my last 2 apartments. So the end of last year, StreetEasy came out with their 2024 predictions for the rental market. They are predicting that we're going to see a calmer rental market, and they're saying that rent prices went up so high last year because they were at an inventory shortage. So they're predicting that we're going to see an inventory increase specifically in Manhattan, which may not lower the prices that you're seeing, but it will hopefully level it out a little bit and prevent the prices from skyrocketing even higher than they were in 2023. So I mentioned in a recent video how my most recent apartment search was really, really quick. Sunday afternoon, I look on StreetEasy and I see basically my dream apartment come up. I find the phone number of the broker. I call the broker directly, and I scheduled a viewing for later that day. Before I even started looking at StreetEasy, I made sure I had all of my documents that I needed to apply. This might not be the safest way to do it cybersecurity wise, but I attached all of my documents to an email. So as soon as I found an apartment to apply for, I could just forward all those papers over to the broker or the landlord, and I could get my application in as soon as possible. I even asked the broker, what are the chances of me even getting this before I even came to the appointment? And he said, well, there's 2 people in front of you, but if you're applying without a guarantor, it's worth coming to see it. So I saw it, I loved it, I applied. The landlord even requested that I read a little blurb about myself on why I'm like a good fit for the community of the building. It's crazy. Like it feels like you're applying for a job, basically. And I ended up getting the apartment, I think because I was their ideal candidate. I didn't have a guarantor. I was applying by myself. I'm single. I don't have any pets. Like all those factors play into a landlord's decision. So I got very lucky, and a lot of people don't have that seamless of an experience. If you want more details on that experience, I'll link a video for you so you can watch. So as far as pricing goes, I'm seeing studios in Manhattan and like Queens and Brooklyn start at like maybe 18 or 1900 up to like 3,000 for 1 bedrooms. It really depends on the area that you're looking at. The highest prices are obviously below 59th Street in Manhattan, all the way down to the tip of Manhattan. So there's another option in New York City to find an apartment that I haven't really talked about much on my channel. It's the housing lottery through the Housing Connect portal online. So to apply, you basically have to meet their income and household size requirements. Each building has different requirements, but you can look up certain areas and see all these like newly developed and renovated buildings that offer lottery opportunities. And this gives you an incredible discount on your rent for a really, really nice renovated developed apartment if you win. I personally don't know the turnaround time for this program, but I assume it might be a little bit of a wait. You just kind of throw your name in there, and if you get the call, that's great. But if you don't, hopefully you're still continuing your search outside of the lottery. You never want to rely on this program assuming that you'll get in, because apparently it is very competitive. But I do know one person who applied for the housing lottery and did get an apartment through that. Also a note on that, applicants who live in New York City receive a general preference for apartments. So maybe it's best to apply if you already live here. Let's walk around a little bit, shall we? Just you yourself looking to move to New York is not the issue of gentrification. I'm sure you have the best of intentions as you are looking to move here. But a way you can help not be a part of the problem of gentrification is be really conscious about where you're putting your money, wherever you're living. When you're going out for coffee, go for small business coffee. Avoid large corporations. Actively seek out family-owned businesses or Black-owned businesses, ones that you can support in your community so they don't get pushed out. One of my favorite organizations to volunteer with is New York Cares. The onboarding took about 20 minutes, and it's just a little online course with a couple quiz questions, and then you can go about signing up. It can be pretty competitive to sign up for volunteer spots, especially over the weekends. So you might have to plan it in advance a little bit, especially if you're volunteering during the holidays. I know those spots can fill up months in advance. Other organizations are like the Bowery Mission or City Harvest. I do think volunteering is one of the best ways to make friends in this city. There's no better feeling than feeling like you're a part of a community. So here we are at the Met Museum. This is somewhere I have actually never been inside. But yeah, celebrities like have their little gala here. I've seen this on Gossip Girl. It's giving Blair Waldorf. There is an incredible resource that you need to utilize if you're looking to move to New York City, and that is the New York Public Library, or if you're in Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Public Library, or if you're in Queens, the Queens Public Library. It's facing a lot of recent budget cuts. Last November, Mayor Adams, he cut so much of their funding that they had to stop Sunday service, except for like one location. The few months leading up to the budget cut, apparently the amount of people who signed up for library cards skyrocketed, and we had like almost 200,000 new applicants. Beyond just being able to check out books, there are a lot of classes you can take. I'm just looking at a list of their courses online that they offer. It's like financial credit and Medicare counseling. You can sign up for a one-on-one session to help you navigate social services and community resources. Knitting and crocheting for all. Virtual fiber art circle where you chat, craft, and create. Like, what a great way to get involved and meet people. And it's free. We love all of that. There's also resume editing workshops. To sign up is very easy. You do need to have proof of address in New York to be able to apply for a card. But I put the address of the sublet I was staying in, and then I changed the address as soon as I went to a permanent address, so that way the mail wouldn't be sent to my sublet. But yeah, you can do it online or in person or by mail. In 2024 in particular, it's election years. We have the primary election, we have the general election, and a lot of other smaller elections that everyone should vote in. There are deadlines for making changes to your registration, such as like a change of address or change of enrollment. I registered to vote in New York when I officially got a New York driver's license, and I did this at the DMV. I like to follow at NYC Votes on Instagram. It really helps keep me up to date on registration deadlines or any other deadlines I need to be aware of. It reminds me that an election's even happening. Sometimes I don't even know there's anything happening. Oh, there's a really pretty bird right next to me. Hey, buddy. Hi, buddy. Oh, we just pooped. So right now in New York City, they're in the testing phase for installing these ugly, in my opinion, ugly yellow metal barriers in between pillars on subway platforms, hoping to prevent people from being pushed onto the tracks or from falling onto the tracks. And I see what they were getting at when they were installing these. But honestly, I really don't feel like they're going to do much. And the amount of money that they must have spent on this is probably very embarrassing. I wouldn't say it's being received very well with the public right now, but you may see one if you come to even visit New York. The MTA is also trying out these fare gates in certain subway stations right now, where they're attempting to change the design of the turnstiles to prevent fare evasion of people hopping the turnstiles. The design is different, so these panels open like saloon doors instead of obviously being a turnstile that you just walk through, but they're realizing that they open so slowly that two people can easily get in at the same time. So that's still in the testing phase. Oh, this is crazy. They developed these new subway cars. What is it called? The R211 subway cars. They are now currently being debuted on the C line, hoping to phase out the R46 train, which has the yellow and orange seats in the L-shaped form. Personally, I really like the L-shaped seats. I like to sit next to the window. The opening doors to get on the train are a lot wider, so in that way it makes it a lot more accessible for riders with disabilities. So we love that. Apparently they have a lot less seats though, which personally I'm not a fan of, but also there's no doors in between the subway cars anymore for these trains. I feel like these subway cars were designed by people who don't even ride the subway, because if someone lights up a cigarette on that subway, that smell is just going to waft all the way through the subway cars. And as far as safety goes, I feel like a divide between subway cars made me feel safer if, God forbid, something happens like the shooting that we had on the subways last year. Or was it 2022? the last couple years. That was contained to one subway car, but now something like that would affect all the surrounding cars as well. Just in 2024 alone, we've had a train derailment and a train collision. It feels like all these improvements I just talked about, like it's moot as long as the infrastructure continues to deteriorate in the subway systems. But it feels like that's just never improving. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. But yeah, it's a very common thing to complain about the MTA and the subway system, but on the positive side, it's amazing how quickly it can get from the tip of Manhattan, the tippy top of Manhattan, to the tippy bottom of Manhattan. The fact that I don't need a car to live in New York City and I can just rely on public transportation to get me from point A to point B is a huge selling point for me to live here. I save so much money not having to pay car insurances or parking, all the other expenses that come with having a car. I don't have to worry about that because I ride the subways. Yes, could they run better? Of course. We're really lucky to have a subway system like we do. I just wish it worked a little bit better and it was less expensive. Okay, my hand is really, really cold. I think I might continue this from the coziness of my apartment. I definitely got a chopped cheese. This is my current favorite sandwich to order. Okay, that sandwich is really good and was exactly what I needed. There is something you should be aware of if you are coming to New York City, especially if you have a car. The Central Business District, or CBD, CBD? CBD. The CBD tolling program is rolling out a congestion pricing program in 2024. Drivers will be charged a toll to enter Manhattan below 60th Street, known as the Central Business District, or CBD. Officials said cars would pay a toll up to $15 to enter Manhattan below 60th Street once per day. Commercial trucks would pay as much as $36. Taxis will add $1.25 per fare, and all rideshare apps like Uber and Lyft will tack on an extra $2.50 per ride. All of this, of course, to incentivize people to ride the MTA, which is where the proceeds are going, apparently, to improve the quality of the public transportation system. This program is ideally going to reduce traffic and travel time, lead to safer streets and cleaner air, reduce emissions, and it says improve quality of life. But like, for who? There was a part of the article that also said, yeah, we're aware that this could lead to extra traffic going through the Bronx, in addition to more pollution in the Bronx because there's more traffic flowing through the area. Just another reason to consider a city bike membership. This is not sponsored. So if you have a car, I might consider not bringing it. However, if you're not a fan of this, there's a hearing on February 29th where you can voice your opinion. It's like a town hall. You know, there's more to the conversation of infrastructure also. As you may know, the East Coast is the Northeast at least, is sinking. And it's sinking 1 to 2 millimeters per year. And that alone is not something you truly need to be concerned about if you're looking to move to New York City this year. Don't let that be a deal breaker for you. But just know that paired with the rising sea levels, we are seeing flooding. And that is definitely something to consider when you're looking for an apartment too, because the flooding was getting really, really bad, specifically for basement units, specifically in Brooklyn. I live in Queens. My building didn't have any damages. The power did not go out. The basement didn't have any flooding. There was no issue. Our streets were fine. Okay, let's get cozy on this couch here and talk a little bit about what lifestyle is like, nightlife and dating. So I moved here when I was 25, and I used to go out a lot in Manhattan to multiple clubs, bars that had dancing. A lot of my favorite bars and dance spots were in the Lower East Side. But then the pandemic happened. All of a sudden, we had a new wave of youngsters moving into the city. Youngsters, not really just people in their 20s, which, more power to them for moving to the city. But they sort of took over those places post-pandemic. And then TikTok really blew up. Certain bars that I had loved to go dancing in, there were now lines. That being said, I'm glad it's good for business for them. So that's great. I'm just a little bit brokenhearted. My favorite place in the Lower East Side was Pianos. I really liked that in my 20s and I miss going there. But what I'm getting at too is the crowd has been a lot younger. And so I don't really like to go out and go dancing in Manhattan anymore as someone in my early 30s. Consider Brooklyn. and Queens to do that instead. And in going out 2024, pre-gaming, we don't shame anybody who pre-games. Not only because inflation, but because when I used to blow $18 to $20 on a cocktail, I used to just kind of ignore it and just pay. Now I don't really want to do that anymore. I can't really financially ignore it anymore. Or consider a house party. A good old Brooklyn house party. Oh, it's good for the soul. BYOB, excellent vibes, easier to meet people. Dating in New York City. What is dating like? I'm gonna get into this more in depth in an upcoming video. If you're looking to meet the love of your life, I feel like it's pretty difficult to do that in New York City. I've had better experiences dating in my 30s, but it's honestly not much better. People are here to hustle, to, make their career dreams come true for the most part, And from my experience, anyone who is looking to build their career, build a business, is not going to invest time in you as much as you want, and potentially might not even be looking for anything serious. And that's totally fine, as long as you're upfront about it. It's hard to even pay for dates in this economy too. So my suggestion is with dating in New York City is to lower your expectations for the first few dates for the types of dates that you go on, instead of perhaps starting with a dinner date that's really fancy and expensive. Remove the pressure of that. I feel like people are more relaxed when they know they can actually afford the date that they're going on. And they're probably saving the more expensive dates for maybe the third or the fourth date instead of the first date when they don't even know if you guys like each other yet. So while I say lower your expectations for the types of dates, don't lower your expectations for the type of partner that you want. Never settle. Don't settle. You might end up like me and be single for a majority of your time in New York City, and that's okay. But don't lower your expectations. So after all of that, do I recommend moving here in 2024? I say yes, follow your heart, but come with something to offer. Come with a dream, a why. I can't imagine if someone that I trusted told me not to come here all those years ago, and I would have listened to them and I would have missed out on this almost whole decade-long learning experience. And I realize now that I'm editing this video that I come off a bit more negative or maybe too tough love in this video than I intended. I love this city with my whole heart, even though it drives me crazy sometimes. In the summers, I love taking the A train to Rockaway Beach. I love seeing families having barbecues on their stoops. I love watching the New York Marathon, even running it. I love those nights that go a completely different direction than what you thought, and then suddenly it's 6 a.m. and the sun is rising. I love knowing I can go to a Broadway show any day that I want. I love being surrounded by new faces every day, and I just cannot get enough of the racing heartbeat of the city. I could go on forever.